Their wedding day, after Sarah discovered the groom wasn't the one she always wanted, but Robert, she became convinced Robert had tricked her into the marriage. So, even when Robert was sick and hospitalized after the wedding, Sarah would deliberately come to torment Robert. Robert thought Tiffy just tried hard enough, he could make her love him. But after 5 years of marriage, her heart still belonged to the one she always wanted, and she treated Robert like a stranger. It wasn't until later that Robert found the photo album locked in her drawer. The album was filled with pictures of the one she always wanted, photos ranging from when he was 6 years old to 25, and it was still being updated. Robert couldn't pretend he didn't mind. Later, when Robert heard David had divorced, Sarah, who usually never touched a drop, got completely drunk that day. The joy in her usually cool eyes was so full it was almost overflowing. In that moment, Robert decided to end this fruitless marriage. Maybe it was getting his divorce signature, but when Robert returned to the home they'd lived in for 5 years had felt nothing inside. Robert's gaze settled on the wedding photo in the living room. Looking at Sarah's forced smile in the picture, all Robert felt at that moment was a sharp sting. Robert took the photo down and threw it into the trash bin downstairs. The entire evening that followed, Robert spent clearing out their marital assets. As soon as Sarah came back, she noticed the missing wedding photo. Seeing Robert absorbed in writing something, she frowned, a rare sight, and asked, "Where's our wedding photo?" Robert didn't look up. "Oh, the nail was loose. I took it down in case it fell on someone." Sarah didn't ask anything further. She placed the takeout food she was carrying next to Robert and turned to go back to the study. Robert stopped what he was doing, opened the bag, and saw the spicy food inside. A sourness rose in Robert's nostrils. The old Robert would have eaten it all, no matter how spicy, to make her happy. But Robert now would just take the whole bag downstairs and throw it away. The night was deep, and Robert couldn't sleep for a long time. As Robert lay there, lost in thought, a hand suddenly wrapped around Robert's waist. Robert felt the sweet scent coming from behind Robert. Instinctively, Robert flinched away, avoiding the kiss she was leaning in for. Sarah looked surprised. After all, for 3 years of marriage, Robert had always been the one making overtures. Now, the one time she made a move, Robert rejected her. It was natural for her to ask, "Are you in a bad mood?" Robert mumbled a random excuse. "Stomachache. I just want to rest." Sarah didn't think much of it. She just murmured, "Okay," and fell asleep in Robert's arms. Suddenly, she remembered the property contract from earlier in the day and asked, "Where's the property contract? I want to check for any loopholes." Robert's heart pounded. Robert stared at her intently. "Are you sure you want to see it?" Sarah saw Robert's nervous expression and frowned slightly. She nodded gently. After a moment of silence, Robert got up, went to the study, and found the agreement. Just as Robert was about to hand it to her, a sudden ringtone broke the silence. Sarah answered her phone first. David's voice came from the other end. "Sarah, Michelle's drunk again and yelling outside. Come quick." Thinking of David's ex-wife, who acted like a maniac, Sarah's face changed. She grabbed a jacket and was about to rush out. Robert stopped her. "Is it David? What happened now?" Sarah was about to swear, but was afraid Robert would overthink things late at night, so she exaggerated the situation. "His ex-wife is drunk again and blocking the entrance with a knife. I need to take security with me. Otherwise, he might be in danger." Robert didn't try to stop her again, just told her, "Be careful." After Sarah left, Robert didn't close Robert's eyes until dawn. Robert picked up his phone to check the time, and saw that David had just posted something on his Instagram feed. The video showed the red sun slowly rising between the mountains. The camera panned, and Sarah's figure flashed briefly across the screen. Robert's heart seized up, and a dull ache slowly began to spread. It looked like David had ended his previous marriage, thanks to the help of Sarah, his ace lawyer. Robert figured it wouldn't be long before Sarah divorced Robert and was with him without a second thought. Robert laughed mockingly to Robert himself. Robert put down Robert's phone and threw everything Robert had bought previously into cardboard boxes. They were all matching items, things they bought as a couple. Robert dragged the boxes downstairs. Sarah happened to come back right then. Seeing Robert struggling, she quickly came over. "Why are you throwing away so much stuff?" Robert lowered Robert's eyes. "I don't use any of it anymore. Might as well throw it away so it doesn't take up space." Sarah nodded understandingly and offered to help lift a box, watching her back as she walked away. Robert's expression was calm. If only she opened the box and looked inside, she'd know that everything Robert was about to discard was something Robert once cherished. Robert threw the box directly into the trash and turned around. Robert's laptop suddenly crashed. To organize Robert's files quickly, Robert borrowed Sarah's laptop. While waiting for the files to transfer, a new message notification popped up. Robert instinctively opened it and saw a message from the law firm. It was an invitation. "Sarah, law firm dinner tonight. Want to bring your partner?" After seeing that message, Robert's hands trembled slightly, without Robert even realizing it. In 3 years of marriage, Sarah had never revealed their relationship to the outside world, so everyone saw her as single. Would she accept this time? Sarah, who was beside Robert, sighed on her phone and immediately looked up at Robert, as if observing Robert's reaction. Noticing her gaze, Robert gave a slight smile. "Are you going to take me to the party?" Sarah didn't know how to answer. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. The silence in that moment felt like a knife in Robert's heart. Robert forced down the pain and pretended to be casual. "Robert has something on tonight. Even if you wanted to take Robert probably wouldn't have time." Sarah's tension eased, and her expression returned to normal. "Okay. Maybe next time I get a chance, I'll take you." Robert didn't reply. There wouldn't be a next time. That evening, Sarah went to dinner alone. As soon as she walked in, several colleagues cornered her. 3 years and you never bring a partner. Sarah, that's not fair to us. Let your girl see the guy. Urged on by her colleagues, Sarah opened her phone. She had two options, Robert. After hesitating for a long time, she finally clicked on David's profile picture and sent him a message. Before long, David found the address and came over. The moment he opened the door, everyone's eyes lit up. They got excited, praising her taste. After a few drinks, Mr. Miller seemed anxious. He handed Sarah a file folder and asked her to take it downstairs to a man. It was a simple favor, and she naturally didn't refuse. Taking the number, she went downstairs. She picked up her phone and entered the number, only to find that it was saved in her contacts. The name Robert flashed on the screen. Sarah froze on the spot. She took the agreement out of the file folder, about to open it, when blinding car headlights shone on her, shielding her eyes. She looked up and saw Robert's figure. She stopped, raised the document in her hand, and questioned Robert about the marital assets. "Property division agreement, Robert. What is this?" Robert was also surprised she'd found out this way, but Robert kept Robert's expression calm. "Chris is getting divorced. He asked me to meet him." Sarah's gut instinct told her that things weren't as simple as Robert made them out to be. She frowned, about to open the agreement to see for herself, when a hand reached out from behind and hooked onto her arm. "Sarah, weren't you meeting a client? What took you so long?" Seeing David cling to her so intimately, Sarah was instantly flustered, unsure how to explain. Robert, however, was calmer than she expected. Robert took 2 steps forward, took the agreement from her hand, bowed slightly, and said with detachment, "Thank you, Sarah. My friend and I are busy dealing with a divorce. We won't keep you." On the way back, Robert kept replaying that scene in Robert's mind. Perhaps Robert had been hurt too many times, but all Robert felt at that moment was exhaustion. Robert rubbed Robert's aching chest. Not seeing the car in front of Robert illegally backing up, Robert drove straight into it. After a heavy crash, Robert's light was trapped by the warped car door, and blood streamed down. Robert's face was pale, stimulated by the intense pain. Robert still managed to stay rational and called emergency services. After being taken to the emergency room, the doctor examined Robert. It wasn't a fatal injury, but Robert needed a minor surgery. They told Robert to contact Robert's family. Robert's parents lived in another state, so Robert called Sarah, but Robert called her more than a dozen times, and she didn't answer any of them. Robert thought about how she was with her colleagues and friends now, and the one she had a crush on was right there. How could she possibly have time to answer Robert's call? A nurse nearby, seeing Robert's state, kindly asked, "Sir, can your wife not come?" Robert shook Robert's head. Robert's voice surprisingly calm. "We're already divorced. It'll be completely finalized in just over 10 days. The nurse was taken aback, a look of surprise on her face. "But aren't you still legally married? She could at least come sign something, couldn't she?" Thinking back on these 3 years of marriage, Robert's heart was filled with emotion. To have dinner with her. Robert had waited up countless times until late at night, only to get a text saying she was working late and wouldn't be back. Sarah wouldn't come. Robert couldn't lie to Robert's self anymore. If a wife couldn't be reached when her husband was in a car accident, what difference did it make if she came or not? The nurse sighed, her eyes full of sympathy. "Well, then call a friend." For the next few days, Chris was the one who took care of Robert. Sarah only got the news 4 or 5 days later. She rushed to the hospital. As soon as she came in and saw the injury on Robert's ankle, a look of confusion appeared on her face. "You were in a car accident. Why didn't you tell me?" Robert was about to explain, but when Robert looked up and saw her, Robert remembered those dozen unanswered calls. Robert swallowed the words stuck in Robert's throat, a faint smile on Robert's lips. "You were busy. Robert didn't want to bother you with a minor injury." Hearing Robert say that, Sarah felt a hint of guilt and decided to explain what happened a few days ago. "Robert, I just happened to run into David that night." "Don't read too much into it," Robert asked unexpectedly. "Has his divorce been finalized?" A flicker of surprise crossed Sarah's eyes, but she answered truthfully, "Yes, he's divorced." The smile on Robert's face grew more pronounced. "Well, congratulations to him. I hope Robert can be just as fortunate." Sarah didn't understand. Her phone rang again. Seeing the caller ID, she hesitated for a moment, then went into the hallway to answer. Half an hour later, she returned and found the hospital room door slightly ajar. Robert's voice came from inside. Yt until the mandatory waiting period for divorce is over. There are only 15 days left until it is finished. The property division agreement flashed into her mind. Remembering the last part of Robert's sentence, Sarah's heart pounded. She pushed the door open directly. Mandatory waiting period for divorce. Who's getting divorced? Robert hadn't expected her to come back at all. Fortunately, Chris happened to arrive just then. Robert pretended to be calm and pointed at Chris. "He's getting divorced." Chris glanced at both of them and, being tactful, nodded and played along. "Yes, I'm planning to get divorced. The process is already underway." Sarah and Robert weren't close, and she had no interaction with Robert's friends. Hearing this, she frowned. "Getting divorced? Why didn't you come to me first?" Chris couldn't come up with a lie and stammered. Robert quickly took over. "You were busy with David's divorce case back then. Robert was afraid you were too swamped, so Robert didn't want to bother you." As soon as Robert mentioned David, Sarah became flustered and didn't press the issue further. "Well, if you have any problems later, you can come to me." Although Robert had covered it up with a few words, Robert didn't feel relieved inside. Watching Sarah look so restless, Robert counted down in Robert's mind how much longer she would stay. Robert counted from 10 down to 1. Sure enough, she got up, found an excuse, and prepared to leave. "Robert, something came up at the law firm. I need to go deal with it. I'll pick you up when you're discharged." Robert knew she was lying, but Robert didn't care anymore. On the day Robert was discharged, 5 days later, Robert waited from morning until evening but didn't see Sarah. As soon as Robert opened his Instagram feed, Robert saw David's post with photos from the beach. It was as if Robert had a premonition. Robert called Sarah. Before Robert could even speak, the sound of the waves crashing on the phone line betrayed everything. But Sarah didn't seem to notice and still made up an excuse. "Robert, I'm on a business trip in another city right now. What's up?" She had indeed forgotten about picking Robert up from the hospital. Robert didn't remind her or call her out. Robert just asked a couple of questions, as usual. "When did you leave? How many days will you be gone?" Sarah's voice sounded a little guilty. "I got here the day before yesterday. I'll be back tomorrow." Robert just said, "Okay," told her to take care of herself casually, and hung up the phone. After calling a cab, Robert stood by the side of the road. 10 more days, and Robert would be completely free. Not having anyone pick Robert up from the hospital was a small thing. What did it matter? After getting home, Robert wanted to speed up Robert's move into the city, but Robert's leg wasn't fully healed yet, making it difficult to get around. So, Robert called a moving company. Cardboard boxes were piled high in the living room. Several movers were busy packing and carrying things in and out. The door wide open. Sarah came back and saw the chaotic scene. She quickly asked, "What's going on?" Robert gave her the explanation Robert had prepared. "That apartment in Oakwood is ready. It's closer to your work, so I'll move there. It'll be more convenient." Remembering the property agreement she had signed last time, Sarah nodded. After changing her shoes, she walked over and sat on the sofa, making small talk. "Didn't you like growing plants? How about clearing out the eastern balcony to put your plants there?" After a few seconds of silence, Robert spoke softly. "No need. Robert has given up that hobby." Sarah looked at the bottle of Lillet on the table and felt like Robert wasn't telling the truth. Just as she was about to say more, she suddenly noticed that the boxes seemed to contain only her things. She couldn't help but change the subject. "Why is everything being moved to yours? Where's your stuff?" Robert answered without looking up. "It's all been moved already." Hearing Robert's quick reply, Sarah thought Robert meant it had all been moved to the new place, so she didn't ask further. She got up to pour a cup of water and casually instructed the movers, "Please make sure to label everything properly and put them in the correct rooms when you get there." Robert looked at her quietly, Robert's eyes flickering slightly. Robert swallowed the words Robert wanted to say. "It won't be wrong, because there's nothing of mine in the new place." After everything was packed up, Sarah helped Robert downstairs first. As soon as they stepped out of the elevator, they ran into David and Emma, the siblings. They all froze for a moment. Sarah hadn't expected this situation. A flicker of panic crossed her eyes. She released Robert's hand and took 2 steps forward, standing in front of Robert. "What are you guys doing here?" David raised an eyebrow. "Emma said she wanted to visit your new place, and I haven't been here either. So I got the address from Uncle Thomas and Aunt Mary and thought we'd surprise you." David's eyes, however, were fixed on Robert. "If I'm not mistaken, I think I've met this gentleman twice before. once at the law firm and once outside a bar. A strong sixth sense prompted him to ask about Robert's identity. He smiled and probed, "Sarah, this gentleman is." Sarah was uncharacteristically silent, seemingly weighing how to introduce Robert. Robert's expression was calm, showing no emotion. Robert even extended a hand towards David. "Robert, Sarah's classmate from college. I'm going through a divorce right now, so I came to my old classmate for some help. Didn't expect her to be moving today." Quite a coincidence. Robert's words jolted Sarah. She first gave Robert the look of guilt, then followed Robert's lead and introduced us all. Although everything seemed normal, David still felt a little suspicious, but with so many people around, he couldn't ask any more questions. He urged his sister to help with the move. David walked over to Robert's side and started chatting with Robert. "Robert, why are you getting divorced?" Robert didn't expect him to be so familiar. After a few seconds, Robert smiled slightly. "My wife likes someone else." Hearing that Robert had a similar experience, David immediately felt sympathetic and couldn't help but offer comfort. "Me too. Pretty much. But it's okay. Once the divorce is final, everything will get better. Sarah will help you through this." Robert nodded. Continuing the conversation, "I heard she handled your case personally. She must have put in a lot of effort." David's face showed gratitude, and his voice became lighter. "Yeah. Sarah was a huge help. She helped me gather evidence, sue my ex-wife, and even stayed by my side to protect me. If she hadn't stepped up with security, I might have been killed by that crazy woman with a knife." Robert paused for a moment, then blurted out an inappropriate question. "Do you like Sarah?" Hearing the question, David froze completely. After much deliberation, he stammered his reply. "I don't know. At first, I just saw her as a sister. Growing up, she'd often take me out to play and look out for me in every way. She'd even get me lots of presents. When someone bullied me at school, she'd step up, argue with them, and get covered in bruises herself. When she found out I was getting divorced, she was the one who reached out and offered to help. It wasn't until later that I heard from my sister, Emma, that Sarah had had a crush on me for a long time. I mean, she's such a cool, distant person, and she had a secret crush. I have no idea how she fell for me. Double quotes." Listening to him ramble on, Robert's heart was filled with mixed emotions. So, she wasn't naturally cold and distant. She just didn't like Robert. After this conversation, he treated Robert like a close friend. He gathered the courage to ask, "Robert, what do you think of Sarah?" Robert understood what David was implying and honestly shared Robert's thoughts. "I've known her for 10 years, but it wasn't until recently that I realized I didn't know her at all. So, I'm probably not the best person to tell you what kind of person she is, but I can tell you this. This is the first time I've ever seen her like someone so much." David nodded thoughtfully, his heart feeling much more at ease. Seeing the sun setting and evening approaching, he pulled Robert along, saying he wanted to take Robert to dinner with them. When Sarah came downstairs and heard this, she froze again, her face clearly showing reluctance. Seeing her expression, a slight smile played on Robert's lips, and Robert declined his invitation. "Robert has something else tonight." Robert won tea and true. Sarah didn't give the siblings a chance to react. She helped Robert into the car. "You guys go ahead. I'll drop him off and come find you." The moving truck followed the car out of the neighborhood. Sarah's heart beat in time with the traffic lights, trying to come up with a plausible explanation. Robert spoke first, breaking the awkward silence. Robert's tone was light. "No need to be so nervous. Didn't we agree before the wedding to keep our marriage a secret until we both felt it was the right time to go public? You're not ready yet." Robert understands. Sarah's anxious heart slowly calmed down. She took a deep breath, her voice tinged with gratitude. "Thank you for understanding. Little by little, I'm coming to terms with being married. Just give me a little more time, and I promise I'll go public." Robert murmured a barely audible twice and turned to look out the window. But Robert doesn't want to wait anymore. Robert is tired. Robert didn't say another word the rest of the way. She seemed to sense Robert's low mood but couldn't figure out why. She could only attribute it to her neglect of Robert while being busy with David's case lately. A hint of guilt welled up in her. She rarely made the first move, but this time she suggested, "Our third wedding anniversary is coming up soon. Let me take you on a trip to relax." The mandatory waiting period for divorce had only a few days left. Robert didn't want any complications. Robert used Robert's injury as an excuse to refuse. Sarah thought about it and agreed it wasn't suitable. She suggested a few other ways to celebrate, letting Robert choose, but for each suggestion, Robert found an excuse and ended up rejecting all of them. It was clear Robert had no interest in celebrating. Robert's cold, indifferent attitude instantly made Sarah suspicious. Seeing her puzzled expression and afraid she'd figure something out, Robert made a suggestion. "That day is a weekend. Why don't you come with Robert to visit Robert's alma mater? Sarah couldn't guess what Robert was thinking, but she didn't want to spoil Robert's mood. She nodded and agreed. The car fell silent again. Robert took out Robert's calendar and looked at 2 dates close together. September 7th had divorce written on it. September 6th was their wedding anniversary. And it was also exactly 10 years since Robert first had a crush on her. Revisiting a place with so much history on such a significant day felt like a proper ending. A full circle. A smile reappeared on Robert's face, and Robert's voice became lighter, almost joking. You won't bail on Robert this time, will you? A rare smile appeared in her eyes. When have I ever bailed on you, Robert? Don't slander me. Robert just smiled and didn't answer her. Sarah didn't come back for the next week. The first thing Robert did every morning was secretly tear off a page from the wall calendar. Robert stayed alone in the empty old house, clearing out the last few things. Soon, September 6th arrived. Robert woke up early, chose a white shirt to change into, and took Robert's camcorder downstairs, planning to capture some footage. Sarah was waiting downstairs. She eagerly helped open the car door, perhaps knowing Robert would soon be free. Robert was in a good mood. Robert talked to her about many things from their school days. Sarah also gradually relaxed and offered to take pictures for Robert, chatting and laughing. They soon arrived at the entrance of Central University. Robert got out of the car first and waited for her by the window. Sarah had just unbuckled her seatbelt when her phone pinged a few times. She opened it and saw a message from David. Sarah, are you free? I have a fever. Can you come over? Seeing the word fever, Sarah's movements stopped. Seeing her delay getting out of the car, Robert turned Robert's head to see what was happening and saw her hesitant expression. In just a moment, she made her decision. Robert, something came up at the law firm. I need to go. Robert was startled, a flicker of surprise in Robert's eyes. Could you go an hour later? Robert understood immediately. She was lying. It was for David again, wasn't it? She said firmly. It's important. Probably not. Robert didn't call her out. Robert just looked at her deeply and let her go. Sarah rebuckled her seatbelt. To show her apology, she made a new promise. Why don't you take a cab home? I'll bring you here another time. After I'm done with things in a few days. Robert didn't accept the promise. There was no future for Sarah. After watching her car drive out of sight, Robert took the camera and went onto the campus alone. Robert walked through all the places connected to Robert's youth and Robert's secret crush. After taking all the photos, Robert hailed a cab and went home. A red dot appeared on Robert's Instagram feed again. Robert tapped it casually. When it refreshed, it was a picture David had posted from a hospital. In that moment, Robert finally knew for sure she had gone to take care of David. Robert smiled. Asterisk for him. She couldn't even spare half an hour for Robert. Asterisk. Robert just glanced at it and exited. Robert found Mr. Miller's contact information. Mr. Miller, today is the last day of the mandatory waiting period for divorce. Do I need to come to the law firm for any final procedures? Mr. Miller replied quickly. No need. Mr. Robert, the mandatory waiting period for divorce is over today, so the entire process is complete. Congratulations on your new beginning. Asterisk. A new beginning. In B. Asterisk. Robert would have a much brighter and more dazzling life. Thinking this, Robert's mind cleared, and Robert turned and went home. Countdown. 3 hours. Robert threw out the last remaining things of Robert's in the house. Then Robert lay alone on the sofa, watching the sunset. Countdown. 2 hours. Robert took out Robert's laptop and edited the photos Robert took today into a video. Countdown. 1 hour. The video was finished. After watching it once, Robert turned on the camcorder again, pointed it at Robert's himself, and pressed record. Robert was going to record a farewell message for Sarah. Finally, the entire video was complete. Robert put the memory card back into the camcorder, then found the divorce agreement and placed it on the nightstand in the bedroom, along with the camcorder. Sarah, from this moment on, they were divorced. Having done all this, Robert picked up Robert's last piece of luggage and left the house. Robert left the city and didn't look back. Meanwhile, Sarah didn't leave David's place until his fever was mostly gone. She was driving and calling Robert, wanting to fulfill her promise from the last time. But after more than a dozen calls, her phone kept giving a disconnected signal. Messages also went unanswered. In 3 years of marriage, it was the first time Sarah couldn't get hold of Robert. Thinking back to the car accident, she couldn't help but get a little worried. She turned around and went back home. Everything seemed neat. But Sarah took one look and realized something was wrong. She didn't see any of Robert's things anywhere. Realizing this, her heart pounded. She hurried back to the old house. The entire house was empty. She searched everywhere, inside and out, but didn't see anyone. It wasn't until she finally went into the bedroom that she saw a camcorder and some documents on the nightstand. Remembering how happy Robert looked holding the camcorder few days ago, Sarah felt a temporary sense of relief. She pressed the power button, wanting to see what Robert had filmed. A video with cheerful music popped up. It showed scenery from different places at the university. Occasionally, large blocks of text would flash on the screen. As she watched, she almost pressed pause. Asterisk Sarah, the square still has a lot of students skateboarding. I remember I confessed my feelings to you here for the first time. You turned me down back then, and I was sad all day. Asterisk Sarah, this is the road you used to take home, and I secretly followed you here for years. Asterisk as she watched scene after scene. Sarah seemed to be transported back to those youthful years 6 years ago. Recalling that time, a smile unconsciously appeared on her lips. The music ended, but the video still had 1 minute left. She thought it was some secret surprise and couldn't help but look around. But she didn't see Robert appear. Filled with confusion, she pressed play. After a few black frames, Robert's face appeared in the center of the screen. A bad feeling suddenly rose in Sarah's heart. In the video, Robert said with a low voice, "Sarah, this is our 10th year of knowing each other. And it's also my 10th year of having a crush on you. It's hard for you to believe, isn't it? It's hard for me to believe, too. After all, how many 10-year periods does one have in a lifetime? In those 10 years, 7 were spent in non-requited love, and 3 as husband and wife. I wanted to reach your heart every single moment and put in a lot of effort. But how can things always go as one wishes? You don't like me. That's something I could never change. So, on this meaningful day, I've made an important decision to let go of this obsession and also fulfill your deep affection for David. So when you see this recording, I just want to tell you, or rather, inform you of something. Sarah, we are divorced. I signed it a month ago. And you signed it too. I've left. Don't look for me. Wish you both happiness." Sarah couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her eyes widened to the maximum, and her lips trembled uncontrollably. The camcorder in her hand clattered to the floor, hitting the folder on the table and bouncing onto her leg. The large divorce agreement was reflected in her eyes. She quickly picked it up and flipped directly to the last page. Her eyes immediately found Robert's signature, and a few centimeters away, in the signature box on the left, was another name. She was incredibly familiar with that handwriting because it was her signature, the flowing strokes of Sarah. In an instant, many details Sarah had previously overlooked flooded her mind. Sarah was almost certain that this was all Robert's doing, deliberately planned. After understanding the sequence of events, anger and panic surged in Sarah's heart. She grabbed the agreement and the camcorder and ran downstairs. She drove straight to the law firm, burst into Mr. Miller's second-floor office, and slapped the divorce agreement onto his desk. "Did you handle this divorce agreement case?" Seeing how anxious she was, Mr. Miller quickly put down his mug, picked up the case file, and flipped through it. "Yes, I did. What's wrong?" Sarah's anger peaked at that moment. She had lost her composure and, forgetting professional courtesy, yelled, "Robert's case. Why didn't you tell me beforehand?" Mr. Miller had no idea what was happening. He was completely confused. The case followed the proper procedures. It's already been submitted for review. There were no issues. Why would I need to tell you beforehand? Sarah accused him. He's related to me. Why didn't you tell me? Mr. Miller's jaw dropped. He quickly flipped to the last page to see the woman's name, Sarah.